What's happening, everybody? On today's show, we got some game times announced for a few SEC football games coming this fall, including Missouri moving up their season opener. Upgrades coming to Sanford Stadium, Tennessee selling out of tickets, and LSU moving up in some preseason rankings. Locked on SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Sorry, we got plenty to get into. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
And we start with the date for the Egg Bowl has been set for this year. We know the date, the kickoff time, the TV network, all of that. The rivalry game is set for Thanksgiving. It's the second straight year and the fifth time in the last 6 meetings that the Bulldogs and Rebels will meet on Thanksgiving night. This year's game will be played at Davis-Wade Stadium in Starkville and is scheduled for a 6:30 Central kickoff. It will air nationally on ESPN. We know it's going to go head-to-head probably, with the NFL. Football, you have your options that night, but man, one of the best SEC rivalry games always is a highlight, never disappoints, and we've had some close calls here in recent years, some good games, so should be a good one. Mississippi State won last year's game 24-22 over in Oxford. It was the final game coached by Mike Leach, who would pass away just a couple of weeks later. Zach Arnett, this will be his first time coaching Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. Lane Kiffin, he's 2-1 at Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. He led the Rebels to wins in 2020 and 2021. And last year's Egg Bowl loss was part of that 4-game losing streak that Ole Miss finished on after starting the year 7-0, but finished 8-5. So we'll see. Egg Bowl, always good. And, who knows? Maybe we'll get a wide receiver faking like he's a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. That's always entertaining. In other game scheduled date news, the SEC's come out with a couple of dates for Missouri. And the headliner, the big one, Missouri is going to open the season a little bit earlier. They had tried to move their opener against South Dakota to Thursday, August 31st, and they were able to get it done. That will air on the SEC network with a kickoff of 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And that'll be fun to see Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz and company go against South Dakota. Look, they're heavily favored. They should beat the snot out of South Dakota, but it'll be good to get them, the early preview and, kind of a game that if it happened on Saturday, we wouldn't pay a whole lot of attention to, but this will be fun. And, of course, here on Locked On SEC, we'll spend that Friday show recapping what happens in that game. So Missouri officials, since last season, they wanted to create a special experience for fans to open the season. And they will get it with Missouri against South Dakota. Now, the other game that was announced for Missouri, their Battle Line rivalry game against Arkansas, will be played on Black Friday. That'll be a 3 Central, 4 Eastern kickoff on November 24th. It's the 10th straight season CBS has chosen to televise the Black Friday game, but pending TV changes could lead to schedule moves in the future. This is the final year of the CBS contract with the SEC. So all games will be shown on ESPN affiliated networks, including ABC, starting in 2024. Just a couple notes on this matchup. Missouri defeated Arkansas 29-27 last year in Como. Mizzou has a 7-2 lead in the series since they came to the SEC. Both of the Razorbacks wins have come in Fayetteville, most recently 2 years ago in 2021. Arkansas, they're used to playing on Black Friday. Remember, they began playing Black Friday games about 27 years ago, played LSU 16 of those times from 1996 to 2013. That's just, for a lot of us, that's what we grew up with. We enjoyed watching the LSU-Arkansas rivalry on Black Friday, but Arkansas-Mizzou it is. And, again, Arkansas, or rather Missouri and South Dakota, are going to open their season on August 31st, that Thursday. The other big one that night out of the SEC is Florida. They're going on the road at Utah. So, again, two pretty big or a big game for Florida to open their season. Not really a big game for Missouri, but at least it's their season opener. And so we'll have a couple of SEC teams playing on that first Thursday of college football. Speaking of the Florida Gators, Billy Napier, they've set a date for when the Gators will debut their black uniforms, and they're going to black out the swamp for military appreciation. They announced some themes and designations for all 6 home games at Florida this year, including the Saluting Those Who Serve and Florida Family Weekend. That will come on November 4th against Arkansas. Florida will honor members of the armed forces, veterans, and local first responders. For every ticket purchased, the University Athletic Association will donate an Arkansas game ticket to a local military hero, up to $2,000. And the Florida campus will be transformed into orange and blue in celebration of the Florida Family Weekend. Now, last May, Billy Napier, revealed that they were going to wear black uniforms at some point to honor the military. He kind of did a similar thing when he was at Louisiana. And so tip of the cap to Billy Napier. And at the time, he said, we're going to take these black jerseys every year. We're going to auction them off. We're going to take that money and we're going to give it to families of people in the military that were wounded or had some kind of setback. So it's a win-win for everybody. We get to black out the swamp, and we get military appreciation, and we get to create some awareness and education and raise some money for those in need. So pretty cool stuff there from Billy Napier. Will be fun to see what the Florida Gators look like in blacked out uniforms. Looking forward to that. In transfer portal news, over at Ole Miss, they picked up a commitment from a former Tulane player yesterday. Jaden Kennedy played in 7 games last year for Tulane before suffering a season-ending knee injury. Had 14 tackles in those games, and he will be coming to Ole Miss. Best season of his career came 2 seasons ago, 2021, where he recorded 55 tackles with 2 interceptions. Committed to Tulane as a 3-star prospect in the 2021 class. And just another added piece, a transfer to Ole Miss. I'm telling you, Ole Miss, you're going to need a roster sheet for that first game they play. They've got so many new pieces and new names to get used to. But, some other transfer portal additions recently. They had former Nebraska defensive lineman Stephen Wynn, Georgia Tech D lineman Akilo Stone, Isaac Uku from James Madison. So just a lot of new pieces. We're going to see what Pete Golden can do with that Ole Miss defense this year. And a quick recruiting tidbit. LSU picking up a commitment for 2024 out of in-state defensive lineman Demarion Johnson. 3-star defensive lineman, 6'2", 275 pounds, rated the number 44 defensive lineman and the number 11 prospect out of the state of Louisiana. With LSU, it's always big to put up a fence around the state, and they're doing that. The Tigers now have 16 commitments for their class of 2024, which currently ranks 2nd in the SEC on the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. So see what LSU could continue to do with that recruiting class. And there you have it. That is the latest news going on around the conference. Actually, it's not. We have plenty more to get into. We're going to do that in just a second. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. And remember to subscribe for everydayers. Make sure you're checking out our shows next week because we're going to get in depth into what's happening at the SEC meetings in Destin. And we expect to get some kind of resolution on the future SEC schedule. That's hopefully coming sometime next week. We'll keep you guys up to date with all that right here on Locked On SEC. So make sure you're subscribed. But first, I want to remind you guys this episode is presented to you by our friends over at Birddogs. We've been telling you about Birddogs because they are comfortable, they fit great, you look better, and you feel great when you wear Birddogs. They are comfortable. They're stretchy fabric in their shorts, make you look great, and they're comfier than any other shorts or pants you might wear. They're versatile. That's one of the best parts about them is you can wear these things anywhere. If you got to run to the store, you got to go get gas, you want to go to the golf course, you want to go on a date, you got a meeting you got to get to, whatever it is, wear your Birddogs. You will look great and feel great in doing it. We talked about some of the big celebrity endorsers that they have, like the Pardon My Take host PFT, Bert Kreischer, Dave Portnoy, tons of different folks are sporting the Birddogs, and for good reason. Look, you can too. All you got to do is just go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege. And when you do that, they're going to throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Again, it's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, and they're going to throw in that free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler. And guarantee you're going to find something you like over there at Birddogs. Birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. All right, roll along here on Locked On SEC, and we're not finished going around the conference. We have plenty more we got to get into, so let's dive back into it. As Bill Connelly has put out his latest SP Plus ratings following spring, and he's made a couple changes to this thing. He's got LSU moving up 2 spots to number 5 in the country now. Now, Connelly noted it's the transfer portal additions that have made the change for LSU. They recently picked up Notre Dame running back Logan Diggs, Maryland offensive guard Mason Lunsford, defensive end Ovi Agufu. Some of these guys were earlier in the offseason. On the D-line, they've got Jordan Jefferson from West Virginia, not to be confused with old LSU quarterback Jordan Jefferson, Paris Shand from Arizona, Omar Spates coming over from Oregon State, Deuce Chestnut, the DB from Syracuse, J.K. Johnson, the DB from Ohio State. I mean, they've got just so many different pieces, particularly on that defense that they brought in through the portal. And Connelly said, combined with the number 6, recruiting class, that is a big upgrade to their roster potentially. And it comes on the heels of, improvement on the field. And they bring so much back when you talk about Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and all these different pieces. Connelly says LSU jumped from a 6-7 team to a 10-4 team and 13th last season. They're poised to take another step forward. And while Alabama is still the highest ranked SEC West team in the SP Plus ranking, LSU's now within 2.7 points, and Alabama's got to get their quarterback situation figured out very quickly. The top 4 teams remain the same, though, in his rankings. He's got Georgia, of course, the reigning national champs, back-to-back national champs, going for a three-peat at number 1, followed by Ohio State, Michigan, and Alabama. LSU's at number 5, Tennessee at number 6. So he's optimistic on them as they head into the Joe Milton era. And the other SEC teams coming in, A&M is at 16, Ole Miss 18, Florida 21, Kentucky 22, Mississippi State 25, and just outside the top 25, Arkansas is 26 and Auburn 27. So it'll be interesting to see as we go along here what, how those early SP Plus advanced metrics play out once we get into the actual season. All right, in other SEC-related news, Tennessee and their fans, they are rocking and rolling as they have exhausted their football season ticket inventory with 70,500 tickets purchased, and that flew past their goal of 61,000 the program announced this week. That was also there was also a 96% season ticket renewal rate, and the Vols have sold more than 9,000 new season tickets from this year over last year. Josh Heupel, of course, was the AP SEC Coach of the Year, has an 18-8 record, including 7 wins over top 25 teams. Second time in the past 22 seasons that Tennessee has sold out its football season ticket inventory. They did so back in August of 2016, but this time around just feels a little bit different. The Vols last season surpassed their goal of 56,000. The goal is to sell 70,000 season tickets for 2026 through 2027. And AD Danny White says they're pretty optimistic about it. He said Vol Nation continues to show why they're the best fan base in college sports. To be sold out of season tickets for this year is a testament to their unbridled passion and support of Tennessee football. Can't wait to see our loyal fans on Rocky Top this fall. Now, one thing that Tennessee has had going for them is they've had some renovations to their stadium. Obviously, some new things coming to their stadium in Knoxville, and some new things coming to Sanford Stadium over there in Athens, as Sanford Stadium is under construction. The first of 2 phases to upgrade the stadium are underway. The Southside Improvement Project of the eventual $68 million renovation will include and feature the expansion of the Southside Concourse from 10 to 23 feet. This is all according to Mike Griffith. He says members of the Georgia Athletic Board shared the plans during their spring meeting on Thursday. The Sanford Drive Bridge will also be encapsulated into Sanford Stadium on game days, which will give fans more space to move around. Bigger, wider game day concourses will have new restrooms, new concession stands. So improving the fan experience around Sanford. And they also said gates 6 and 9 will be completely rebuilt. There will be a start on the extension of the stadium that will eventually hold their new press box in the 2024 season following phase 2. The first phase is going to double the width of the South 100 level concourse, including Sanford Drive, which will be blocked off from non-stadium pedestrian traffic on game days, expected to be finished by the end of this summer. So, again, if you're a Georgia season ticket holder, good things coming to your stadium. One other note on Georgia, Josh Brooks, obviously enjoyed a lot of success as Georgia's AD. On Thursday, he got a raise and a contract extension that will take his agreement with the school up to 6 years and $1.25 million, including a raise of $100K each year. Those terms will begin on July 1st. He was named AD back in January of 2021 after serving 11 years in different roles at Georgia. At the time of his hiring, he was the youngest AD among Power 5 conferences. And look, Georgia football, obviously back-to-back national champs. They won the 2021 title in equestrian, the 2021 SEC crown in women's tennis. Tons of different things Georgia's had success in. And Brooks this spring was named to a committee along with other SEC ADs, Mitch Barnhart and Greg Byrne, to address post-game spectator incursion on competition fields and courts. And that's that whole bull about don't rush the field or we're going to be really mad. Okay, whatever. Other SEC notes, Heather Dinich believes Georgia has an easier path to the college football playoff this season than Alabama. We're not really breaking news there, but she was on ESPN's Get Up this week and was asked about the Georgia Bulldogs having 4 home games to open the season. Of course, Alabama's got to host Texas in week 2. It's going to be a tough one. But Dinich credited Carson Beck as the guy who's expected to be a starting quarterback coming out of spring and that he's played well. She said that Kirby Smart's the kind of guy who's not going to be afraid to make a quarterback changes if he has to. Just get the best player in the field. I would expect to see Georgia back in the SEC championship game and among those top 4 teams at the back end of the season. Georgia opens with, it's a little embarrassing, Tennessee Martin, Ball State, then they get South Carolina, and then they get UAB. Look, we all know they had Oklahoma on the schedule. The SEC said take them off because they're about to come to the conference, but man, oh man, for being the reigning champs, Georgia seems to have a pretty easy path to success. We'll see what they do this season. One other Tennessee note real quick, Mackenzie Milton. He has taken a job on Josh Heupel's staff as an offensive analyst. You may remember that name. He played quarterback at Central Florida and Florida State, and of course has familiarity with Heupel from his time at Central Florida when Heupel was the head coach there. Milton said in a statement, "I couldn't be more excited about starting my coaching career at Tennessee and reuniting with Coach Heupel. Grateful to him for the opportunity. Leadership makes a difference. Look forward to helping the program in any way I can." So it was kind of funny when I saw the news on Twitter. I was like, wait a minute, does he have eligibility remaining? No, he's coming in a coach role, not as a quarterback. And speaking of Tennessee quarterbacks, remember Harrison Bailey, former Tennessee quarterback? He had transferred over to UNLV. Well, now he's on the transfer move again. He's heading to Louisville. Former quarterback out of the state of Georgia, was a 4-star prospect, number 99 overall prospect in the class of 2020. It signed with Jeremy Pruitt and the Vols back in the day. But best of luck to Harrison Bailey heading over to Louisville. Play for Jeff Brom. We'll see if he has success there. And there you have it. There's the latest going on around the conference. When we return, we'll hit on a couple of SEC baseball nuggets from the SEC tournament going on in Hoover. That is coming your way in just a sec. Going along here, locked on SEC, and the SEC tournament going on over in Hoover. And of course, there's games happening every day, depending on when you're listening to this podcast or watch us on YouTube. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time, recapping the games because by the time we're watching this, some of the teams that have advanced may have lost already and all that kind of stuff. So figured we would at least give you a couple of the highlights of things that happened yesterday. And Bryson Ware has had a historic season for Auburn. He had his 24th home run yesterday. He is now the school's all-time leader for home runs in a single season. He hit the record breaker in the top of the 6th inning on Thursday's elimination game in Hoover. He now surpasses Hunter Morris, who hit 23 home runs back in the 2010 season. Morris just happens to now be on the staff for Alabama, so he got to witness it. But Auburn's 20-plus home club includes recent fan favorites like Sonny DeShera, who hit 22 homers last season, and, of course, the legendary Frank Thomas, who hit 21 of them back in 1987. That was a record at the time. But Bryson Ware, now in the history books at Auburn, so congrats to him. But unfortunately for them, Auburn finished in the SEC tournament yesterday. Alabama baseball, they're moving on in the tournament. Crimson Tide eliminated Auburn 7-4 on Thursday. Garrett McMillan pitched 6 innings in the win for Bama. Hunter Hoops picked up the save, did not allow a hit, finished the game with 1 strikeout. Alabama facing the loser of Vanderbilt, Florida today, and as of right now, that game is tied as of this recording. Other games took place, other game who took place yesterday, the number 4 Arkansas Razorbacks. They advanced to the semifinals of the tournament with a 5-4 win over number 5 LSU. Arkansas, which was the 2 seed, had a couple of good innings from Hagen Smith, their lefty, and Hunter Holland. The duo gave up 4 runs on 11 hits, but combined to strike out 17 LSU Tigers. And the Razorbacks plated 5 runs, 2 of them earned against the SEC Pitcher of the Year, Paul Skeens. It was a controversial call on LSU got the 3rd out, and the game was tied 2-2, but they ruled there was catcher interference. So the batter's bat hit the catcher's glove from LSU, so all runners advanced, a run scored, hit 3-2 Arkansas, and then next guy drilled one right up the gap and scored a couple more runs, and Arkansas took a 5-2 lead. So it was an uncharacteristic, not dominant outing from Paul Skeens of LSU. But Arkansas, they secured a spot in the semifinal round. They will get a day off on Friday. They'll play the winner of Texas A&M versus LSU at noon on Saturday. And speaking of LSU, one more basketball nugget we'll squeeze in here before we call the show. Damian Collins, former Kentucky forward, he has picked LSU as his transfer destination. He's a former 5-star recruit, former McDonald's All-American from the state of Texas. He announced back in April he was entering the transfer portal, put out a statement, said, "I want to thank Coach Cal and his staff for an opportunity to represent Big Blue Nation and continue my growth as a young man." It's been a difficult decision. It's been the best decision for my future. With that being said, heading to LSU. So Collins played in 52 games, starting 2 of them for Kentucky over the years. Was in a reserve role, averaged just over 2 points, 2 rebounds, only 7 minutes of action per game. But he had a lot of offers coming out of high schools and big, a lot of SEC schools were after him, Alabama, Arkansas, among others. But Damian Collins going to LSU. We'll see if he ends up starting there. Big man going to LSU for basketball. So we'll see what happens with him. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Again, we'll be talking college football all throughout this summer. And of course, next week, getting into SEC spring meetings. And look, there's got to be some kind of resolution here real soon on what's going to happen with the future of SEC football scheduling and the expansion, bring Oklahoma and Texas in. Sounds like, at least everything we've heard, sounds like we're going to go to this 9-game conference schedule. You're going to add an extra SEC game, and you're going to have a rotation of 3 teams you'll play every year, and then everybody else will rotate. And it's going to be fun. Look, there will not be an SEC venue you will not go to at least once every 4 years. And you add Texas, you add Oklahoma. Those are going to be fun games. Everybody's going to want to go play it at new destinations you haven't been to before for a lot of SEC fans. I think that's the one that makes the most sense. I know there's been some pushback from some of the middle-tier SEC clubs that some of these coaches are thinking, look, we want to keep our non-conference games at 4 because we want to get our 4 easy rental wins, and then we only have to win 2 SEC games to get to 6-6, get bowl eligible, go to bowl game, save my job, I'm good. Not going to be that easy. You're going to have 3 non-conference games. And look, let's be honest, a lot of these teams are going to they're going to make sure those are cupcakes, especially if you got to play 9 games in the conference every year and you're adding 2 behemoths like Texas and Oklahoma. It's going to make it a lot tougher on everybody. And I keep saying this, but in the expanded SEC, if that's the way they go with the scheduling, 9 wins, throw a parade for 9 wins in a normal year moving forward. So it's going to be a lot tougher. We'll see what happens. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Thank you guys so much for making us your first listen every day. And again, shout out to our everydayers. On Monday, we'll be recapping all the action from the weekend. I'm sure we'll have more transfer portal additions around the conference, maybe some more football nuggets, and a early preview of what to expect out of the SEC meetings in Destin next week. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.